All right, I'll call a meeting to order for the Open Space Stewardship and Policies Work Group. Marjorie Winters, we got Karen, we got Susan, we got Tom, two Toms. And so the minutes from the April 6th meeting, did anyone have any corrections from that?
Seems like so long ago.
I know.
I was rereading them today and I'm like, well, that's a lot of these things I've already done. I mean, the cleanup day seemed like it was a year ago at this point.
I have a question about them.
Yeah.
In the section where we're talking about the communication with the Audubon Society, a Mr. Beach is referenced. Is that a gentleman from the Audubon Society?
Yes. It is Doug Beach.
And has there been any action on having a kestrel falcon box? I mean, some of those things sounded potentially easy, but really quite cool.
Yeah, they did. They went and installed the box. I walked the area with Mr. Beach in, I guess it was April at this point or something. It was a long time ago. It's hard to remember exactly when, but it was a time when we had quite a few people out of work with the maintenance staff. So we had picked a location. Our staff was going to dig the hole, but Mr. Beach had somebody in the area who was eager to get it installed based on his timeline. So they went and did it themselves based on the spot we had chosen. And it's been up for quite a while now. You can see it from Hoskins Road. If you look straight out beyond the two barns there, you can see it up on the hill. And it's about 9 feet high. I would say about 8 to 9 feet high. And they've also installed some bluebird boxes, I think, out there as well.
Yeah.
I think so.
That's great. It's real good.
Now, did Doug mention anything about having people go to monitor the boxes?
He said they will have somebody doing that. That was I think that was part of our discussion when they asked if them in there. So
because I know they're doing it for we're having for the Simsbury Land Trust, we put up some new bird boxes and we've got people monitoring. But I was just over at the Simsbury Farms yesterday doing their survey for their Audubon certification. And I know there are lots of lovely bird boxes there. And we were discussing that we might need to get a group together to monitor them, because it's not so much that you have to monitor them, but they can get two clutches per year, but you have to clean out the boxes between the clutches, otherwise parasites build up.
Yeah, I know Northwest Park in Windsor, the Friends of Northwest Park do that. They have volunteers that go out. We walk around that field all the time, and we see them out there every once in a while monitoring them.
So we were discussing there might be something maybe on Facebook or something that we can get a group together. So I think there was a group that came and taught the people at the Land Trust how to do the bluebird box monitoring. There was a group, so it might be something we could adapt for the town too. Sure. Because I know it's a lot of work for the town to monitor them. Yeah.
He did say he thought it might take a couple of years for the kestrels to kind of find that area and nest in it. He said don't expect it's going to happen overnight or anything. He's like, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, and but they'll monitor it. So
the kestrels are tricky. The other ones, the bluebirds, the tree swallows, the chickadees, the titmice, those ones will find the bluebird boxes. All right. So no changes to the minutes. So we need a motion to approve, or do we should? Thank you, Susan. Karen, do you want to do a second for the motion?
Second.
All right. You've got 3 now. All right. So we're moving on to open space website updates opportunities. Susan, you've got topical information sheets that you're thinking.
Yeah, I have topical information sheets, and I don't know if you remember the last meeting. I was having computer problems, or I was on my phone, or I don't know, something was not right. But I wanted to ask Tom, I didn't look before the meeting. Have you made any changes yet?
I have not, Susan.
Okay.
I haven't had the time to do it, but I considered doing some of it today, but then I saw in the notes, I didn't attend the last open space meeting because I was on vacation, and Maria filled me in that there were some things that you guys wanted on there. I didn't want to mess with it without.
No, that's fine. I did talk to Maria briefly, and she said that you had an intern that could be helpful with that. Is that true?
She just started. Yes. I haven't met with her, but she just started work about a week ago.
Okay. So maybe what I could do today is show the little thing that I made that I couldn't show last time because of the technical problems. And if you want, I could just like kind of work directly with the intern, if that would be helpful once we decide, what's going on. So maybe, I can't share my screen. This will be super quick.
Hey, Tom, if you're still listening, can you allow screen sharing?
You should be all set now, Susan.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Let me see. Okay. So what I did, I assume you guys can all see this. I did like a screenshot of the current site. And we need to make sure that Karen is
Gets that
on there. This is, like I said, I did this before. And then, so I looked at, here on the left, we have a bunch of stuff and just kind of went over what would be things that are still relevant and what aren't. So, some of the things are really outdated and we, don't really need them on there anymore, like the, some of the management plan for Ethel Walker, the Old Bridge Road, we've already kind of done that project, submission ideas, I don't know how we might want to archive them, but here on the next page, I just blanked out the things that I think we don't need. There's a couple of things we don't need, and there's a few more things we don't need. So basically I went through stuff that isn't really super current. But I thought, our open space master plan is relatively recent. The Meadowood thing is relatively recent. The open space work group is a work in progress. This stewardship presentation is kind of like an educational thing. So, and I sent this file to Tom, and I'm happy to send it to everybody. But this would be like what I would go over with the intern. And then I started to think about what would be, because we're kind of locked to this sort of template really for the website to this is how the town website works right now. So then I thought about what are some of the other documents that we want to add. So we've talked about information on wildlife and pollinators. We adopted the natural area stewardship policy. We adopted the agricultural policy. I don't know if we want to talk about some tree removal policies. I've been involved in that just as a public education thing. These are all open for discussion. We might want to add I have to move my stuff. We might want to add our plan of conservation and development because that has some implications for open space. Educational forums that we've had and might be adding more in the future. We've talked about that. We've talked about invasives. We, have our policy on, our mission and our principles for why we acquire open space was like that 15-point document that we passed. This isn't in any good order. I just tried to kind of list those things as topics on the side. And some of these, some of these we already have done, and some I think we could get done, pretty easily. So this is just like some notional topics, some of the other topics that aren't listed here. But maybe we could have some higher order headings with topics below is maybe some information for residents on, how to prevent bear interactions, encroachment and dumping we've talked about in the past. So this would be sort of like a one-stop shopping, and, conservation might want to also link to those. There might be conservation documents we want to link to. So I'd like to get more kind of, interconnection among these topics between like open space, conservation, planning, etc. So everyone's kind of like thinking about the big picture a little bit and knows what pieces fit into it. So then I think I have a couple more slides. Nope, that's it. That's all my slides. So
awesome.
Anyway, I mean, it's not like a grand idea, right? But it's just, it's just starting to chip away at kind of getting some new things on there and thinking about how they all sort of fit together.
Susan, as a newcomer, I've been fooling around on websites and I've been to this one, and I'm really glad that you're thinking about updating it, because as a newcomer and even somebody who's interested, I thought, wow, we could be clearer and more current. I love the ideas that you're suggesting. And Tom, the whole NOMO thing, I guess you've done a lot of work on that, right?
Yeah, my staff has, our golf superintendent and our park superintendent have really kind of
Yeah,
taken
well,
the
I
lead.
mean, that's just totally awesome. And so there should be, in my opinion, who's somebody who's really interested and excited about this and want to get other people feeling the same way. More information about NOMO should be there. That's just the coolest thing ever. Your topical info test drive with dark skies. Gosh, that's great.
Oh,
And-
thank you. I didn't even put that on my list that I just showed you, but it's
I know
really
you didn't,
important.
and it's wonderful. And I would be happy to take a stab at others using the format of some of the other topics that are listed in the information that came out for this meeting, because I would like to see a whole bunch of cool informational things on that. I think a lot of the problems we have is that people just don't realize how urgent so many of these things are. You know, as an example of something that I might put on the no light thing is that fireflies, you mentioned mating is a problem for things, but also all the horrible pesticides that we put down and are not being put down in NOMO, get rid of the fireflies because those little creatures have a 2-year lifespan underground. And so all that stuff coming down for those 2 years keeps them, you know, from hatching and becoming. So I just think it's so great to share with young people or families these ideas, because that's how we begin all together, you know, to help in this. And also, Marjorie, I think you mentioned for the Meadow View area, volunteers to watch the bird boxes. Could we put volunteer opportunities on there? And so somebody could read, you know, would you like to take a walk? And I don't know how informed you have to be a box volunteer, but as an example, maybe volunteer opportunities could be there as well. It's really a powerful thing, the website page.
And Facebook.
And Facebook, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's anything I can do for that, let me know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at getting the word out about topics. I write the newsletter for Flamig Farm, and it has lots of information. And I think they love to engage with the town that they're in. And so I could put an article on open space on there with your permission or whatever it would be. Lots of ways to get the news out.
And
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I think, you know, what I want to do, like what you just talked about about the fireflies, that would be a great little thing under like the fast facts thing, you know, like little tidbits. And the Flamig newsletters are great. And I'm glad you offered, because I was thinking exactly that. You would be a perfect person to help kind of put this
Sure.
sort of stuff together.
Yeah,
So-
I'm a pretty good writer, and I'm just passionate about all of these topics. In fact, I'm just terrible. I have a fact sheet on how mosquito Joe, it's not true that they're natural. And I put all the information together, and I put together information on those mosquito bombs that you can put in a pond, which doesn't hurt anything, but it kills the larva. Mosquitoes only have a travel radius during their life of 1 mile. So if anybody who has a pond or whatever would stop it, we'd get rid of the mosquitoes without hurting anything. And so every time I go past one of those signs, it says, oh, naturally, that just drives me nuts. And I put a little flyer in the mailbox. I hope nobody catches me. But, you know, we could just talk about, you know, safe insect control. And you guys mentioned Doug Tallamy. My gosh, Homegrown National Park is huge on the fact that insects are baseline to our food, you know, pile up, like kind of like the, what is the baseline in the ocean? You know, the insects are to us. Yeah, those kinds of things.
Krill.
And yep. So anyway, you know, lots of cool, fun information. And so I would really support sharing some of the tenets of Homegrown National Park with our Simsbury readers.
well, it'd be lovely just to put a link. I mean, you know, I've often tried to get people to read Douglas Tallamy's book, but they're not going to read it. But Douglas Tallamy does wonderful talks
Yes.
on YouTube, and you know, just a simple link said, you know, to learn more, visit this. I mean, he's a very convincing speaker,
He's my new hero of my life. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
It is revolutionary, but I don't know, can we link to other things on our?
I think you could. Did you also want, I mean, are you guys interested in doing the pollinator pathway
In the
link
education?
on there as well? I think that we should probably have something to the work they're doing in town, or at least the national
We
website.
can link to them, they have things linking, but we can also just link, I mean, under education, we can just put,
Yeah.
reasons why.
Yeah. I think, Susan, could you go back to your slides for a second?
Sure.
I
They were
just wanna
so
see-
great.
That what you did is fantastic because it's easy to see how it can be improved. I think like this under news and announcements, that's where those training opportunities could be posted.
Mhm.
That you were talking about, or the volunteer talks on
Oh, yeah.
whatever the topic, invasives or pollinators or whatever. That could be done under there. And then it's also possible for those kind of things, I think, to show up on the town's main page. And when they click that link, it brings them to whatever we've set that up as. I believe that's possible, that they can put those under the town news and announcements, those type of things, well, as well, for people who are happen to hit that page first. And then the Parks and Open Space Master Plan should probably be on here somewhere, as well in that list. Oh,
Yeah, I
I'm sorry.
left it. I left
I'm
that
sorry, I
one
missed it.
on there.
I apologize.
Yeah, I left that on there. So, we can also, I can also try and think about how to sort of organize this. So what I kind of imagined with this top one, information for residents on wildlife and pollinators, I thought that could then be a short document that then was just like a paragraph, rather than doing a whole thing on light pollution, which, sort of was like cobbled from things, could be a smaller thing, but it would link to the Homegrown National Park, link to the Pollinator Pathway Program,
Sure.
link to all this other stuff. So we don't have to like create that. We're just kind of creating a pathway on our website for people to get all that information kind of in one spot. And maybe that could be in something like the light pollution thing might even be under there, right? That's,
Yeah, the International what is it, Dark Sky Initiative. I mean, they have wonderful little already made up little cards. I mean, it's very simplified, but they're just PDFs and people could print out or view. So we don't really have to do that. So if we link to them, and it's broken down by topic.
So
Yeah,
Susan,
so
are
we can
you,
link to that too.
are you updating this, or Tom, an intern has been mentioned. What's his or her role? Or
So the town manager has a new intern every year. The current one just started about a week or so ago. I guess Maria has possibly said that she could work on this. She has access to the town website.
terrific.
So I think it'd be helpful if maybe her and I and Susan maybe had a quick Zoom call or something and explain,
Yeah,
and then she could figure out how she could do that. She would have more time to apply to that than I would at this point. And she's probably a lot more adept at moving things around than I am on the website as well.
So from a logistics point of view, I mean, getting these things done, I know, we're not going to have a meeting every few weeks, and we're not going to do this over meetings. So the way to do it would be to figure out which ones each of us want to tackle, and then submit it to who? Tom? Should we send it in to you, and then you submit it back to all of us? Because I know, we've got to.
Well, if we want to do, and if you guys, if the three of you are recommending this slide, this is the final slide, Susan, right?
Yeah.
The final. If you like the look of that final slide, and then I'm assuming this is like, oh, good, that's a good example, Susan. And all of these would be linked, correct?
Yeah,
Every one of
I
these-
actually forgot I had this final slide.
Yeah. So this is actually, that's a great example. So if we take that last slide we were looking at, and then this slide, and all we basically need is the links, right, to redirect it. So we need to provide what we want that last screen to look like, because that's easy to that should be easy for her to do. We just need to tell her where to send those things or what documents to link to those tabs. That's what she needs to get this set up, or whoever would be doing it would need it to get set up. And then you're off and running. I think you just peeled off like, 8 years of, old documents and replaced it with current information, which is great. And, but this is what we would need to look at is we would need the if you want that wildlife and pollinators page to look like this with each of these intentional feeding policy, lighting, bear smart, those being linked to wherever that information's is on the web, that should be fairly easy to do, I would imagine. We just need to give her that information. So like, this is just one tab. What do you want the others to look like? If it's the conservation plan of development, that's an easy link to the document that's on the town's website already. That's an easy one to do. So, there's not a lot of heavy lifting here. It's just a matter of giving her the information for each of those tabs. And again, it could be a paragraph or it could be something that looks like what's on the screen right now. And then the links to those things. And she should be able to do that.
Yeah, so just about in some of the what like heavier lifting would be if we wanted to kind of customize something for the town, if we weren't happy with like the canned information from other places. And then the other heavy lifting is some of these things I think are really kind of just public education things that we would agree on the content. And some of them might actually be policies that we might want to have passed in the town. So that would require going to the full like open space commission and then going to the Board of Selectmen. Because Marjorie brought up in the past, like maybe we might have a native plant policy in town or something like that. So I think there's kind of, like you said, the low hanging fruit, the medium hanging fruit, and the, like slightly not difficult, but just a little bit longer of a path.
Policy oriented stuff's going to take a little bit. Yeah,
exactly. And
but this what you're giving us here is, I mean, by the next time we meet, this could all be done. This
could easily be quite nailed down. And the what I sort of designed I actually forgot I did this slide. It was such a long time ago. But as you can see, I tried to just include, and I'm not wedded to this. This was just like, kind of off the top of my head. So if people have other topics, like right away, I can kind of add those to this. Oops. I didn't necessarily mean to do that. But if you have other topics, just tell me and I can, add them to that. For that. And then the other thing is, I think I probably over-explained why I put the light pollution thing in sort of the template format, because I think that would facilitate if we had documents, like Karen, if she has a topic she wants to help with, if we have a template, then it's sort of easy to kind of chunk the information into that. And then we have sort of like a nice set of documents that look neat and are easy for people to understand, which is also a benefit, because sometimes just sending them to another website, they're like, well, what's my take-home message for what I should do in Simsbury? So I think there's a benefit, even if for now, for some of those topics, we just link to other sources, we might want to think of that path as a little bit of an upgrade. And the kind of exciting thing was I thought I might be sort of stealing this template idea from Connecticut League of Conservation Voters, because I've noticed they do it, because just to try and facilitate policymakers understanding this. And I said, well, I might like steal your idea a little bit. And they said, steal the whole thing. We don't care. And they said, you're welcome to do that. And we'd be happy to even help share them or whatever. So it could be something that's useful for other towns as well, to have really customized information. So
I think that's a great idea. And I'm not surprised that you as an educator would realize the value of consistent presentation. It'll make it easier for our folks to read that. And while you were talking, it made me wonder, I do a fair amount of public speaking on behalf of my work with therapy dogs, and maybe in the fall, I could reach out to some of our schools and see if I could come in and do a presentation telling the kids in the classes what the Open Space Committee does, what their community is doing for this, and share some of these. I'm all about getting these ideas into the next generation, because that's where we're going to get saved. So I don't know if I
That's
should mark my
amazing,
calendar
Karen.
to bring that up at a, I don't know, a September meeting or something, but I have such, oh yes, please bring the therapy dogs into schools, that I'll bet they want to have, the guest speaker for half an hour at the, the 5th grade or something. I don't know. Idea.
That would be phenomenal.
Okay.
Susan, did you did you already send me the templates? Because I was trying to find them.
I sent in the things that I sent for the meeting is I just sent a link to the Connecticut League of, she
right.
didn't give me a template. She just pointed
Oh,
me
here's the
to the
template.
briefing papers.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah. Okay.
So they're all a tiny bit different. But they have kind of a, sort of consistent format. So just to, like, there's one on composting. I'll just pull this one up. Whereby, they give, usually theirs starts with like the problem. I tried to not make every one of our topics a problem, but just sort of say, here's some background. And then, I forgot what the headings I had, but here's some background. Here's some, best practice. I think instead of a comprehensive solution, I said best practice on ours. I like the fast facts because those are kind of like little things that stick in your head and will remind you about that. And then like more information. So the amount of content in each one of these sections might vary, or the exact heading might vary. But it's, it's pretty simple thing. Usually it has like a little picture, and they're almost always one page. Sometimes they're two, both sides, but so anyway, I felt like we had talked before about doing like a little white paper on these little topics. And I feel like this is kind of that vein. And there's no reason why we can't have links in these too, but, kind of gives them all the main information up front.
I love your format. Is there a reason why you guys have been thinking of that versus just copying these or reproducing these, since they said we could? Do you think this is just a bit too much? What do you guys think?
I'm okay with copying it. I just didn't have the actual template to use. You mean for my light pollution one?
Yeah, you said that this organization, the Connecticut League of Conservation Voters, has a whole series of these one-pagers on a bunch of topics, and I assume light pollution is one of them. And
No, they don't.
Oh,
They don't. That's why if we developed one, they would be happy to share it.
Well, then let's do our own. And if I write some of them, and I'd be happy to send a draft to you guys, I could go to their site and get the information out of those that would fit into ours. Is that what would be helpful?
Yeah, I don't know if they have any on the ones that we're.
Oh, well, I'll research it. I'll do it.
I don't think we have to limit ourselves to Connecticut League of Conservation Voters or other people that, yeah.
I'm just learning more about sources as I listen to you. That's all.
Yeah, the Dark Sky Initiative has some great.
Yes, it does. Yeah, and I love them. And so does Doug. You could write one on pollinators.
Yeah.
From Doug.
Yeah, just to be clear, I wasn't talking about getting the content from Connecticut League of Conservation Voters. I was just talking about getting the idea for using this kind of template format to sort of streamline our materials.
Good. Thank you. That was kind of my question. Okay.
Probably want to do more bullets. People hate reading.
Yeah.
Another one of your suggested topics that I really liked was Simsbury open space at a glance. I mean, I know that there's information and there's maps and all of that, but as somebody who's interested and never did a lot of research on it, something even simpler would be helpful, perhaps, to some people to appreciate it, go visit it, what have you.
Be nice to have a link to our open spaces on our website.
Okay, that's a good one.
I mean, just say, I mean, that would be an easy category because, you can zoom in on I mean, when we just do a publication, it's all very tiny. But the nice thing about the internet is that going on the website, you can you can zoom in, and get a
Oh,
higher.
well, let's
res.
do that.
Yeah,
We can also find, because we do have town maps that show not only the town open space, but the state open space and the land trust open space and some other open spaces. So it's good to know those things too.
Yeah.
Marjorie, you just mean that overall map that has the different colors and stuff?
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
if it's a big enough, if it's a high enough resolution, we can link it, and then you can go in on when you're on the computer.
I have another
Sometimes
question.
those maps just don't do it.
I have another question. It may be just that I don't know, but I was doing a presentation at the library on therapy dogs, and pollinator pathways were there. And it was the first time I noticed those several little gardens that they have outside where I think they planted native pollinator plants. I'm not sure this is right, but it might be that they planted them or they even maintain them. Are there other spots around the town where we've done that or we're thinking about doing it?
There are other places where the pollinator pathway is working with various people around town to develop some pollinator gardens. And the Simsbury Garden Club has also done a pollinator garden.
Yeah.
So, but the whole thing is we need to have, everybody's doing it. So, but just to highlight where they're doing it.
Yeah, there's maps on the local pollinator website that shows the overlaps and things like that. It's great. It's compelling.
Yeah.
I think it's helpful for others to see.
Yeah.
Share that out. And then we'll obviously we've done a lot here in some of the parks and Memorial Park. There's a few that we've laid out, Simsbury Farms, both the park side and the golf side, and they're going to be doing some more. Obviously, the Iron Horse median is going to be done. I think it's later this summer, early fall. So there's areas.
Are we doing
Yeah,
it?
we were just talking about it today. in a meeting.
Yay!
I'm pretty sure it's straight from Orlando's mouth that it's going to happen.
All right.
By this fall. So.
All right.
That's huge. That's huge. So am I just, as a newcomer, not as well informed as I will be, or is that information something that we should also talk about on the open space page? I'm proud of that. It's important. And maybe people will do what Ptolemy does, which is, I don't care how little space you have, put in a 4x4 little area of native pollinators. If everybody in the country did that, we'd have as much open space as we have in our national parks, and think what we would do for the bugs. It'd be great.
Yeah, so I think it's just starting. So, it's been
Okay.
a little bit delayed, but it will be starting up, and there will be some progress pictures.
Yeah, they're pretty good about promoting on Facebook and things like that. If you can find, Simsbury pollinators and like that page,
they're
they get the word out. And we've certainly had some of our town leaders, Wendy and Eric, have been great about posting stuff for pollinators and or sharing that information. And people have shared the no mow zone signs and whatnot. And
No, I know one went in today at the historical at the Masako Historical Society.
Yep.
They're putting in a native plant garden there.
Good.
The whole pollinator pathway kind of documentation and information would be a great little project the intern could work on, creating that little chunk of the website. That would be a perfect little,
Well, that one, because they are local. I mean, the link would go right to that.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, I wonder, so some of the topics, one of the things that we brought up, in terms of dividing up topics, or kind of finalizing some of this, I did lurk on the Dark Skies website, Marjorie, and I didn't see that perfect thing that you're talking about.
All right, I'll send them to you. They're little flyers that you can just go to.
Okay.
And I'll send the Dark Sky. I'll send them.
Do you think it had all that information that I put on that handout, that I put on that stuff?
Well, they had different ones. One was about, safety. You don't need the lights on all the time. That's actually not safe. They had one about the benefit to wildlife of not having the lights on. They had one about, I think they had one for insects. They had a variety of different types of topics. So I'll send those flyers. Because I know I ordered them and I got them and they were nice. They're just nice little, easy to handle.
Okay, do you think that maybe some version of this might work as something that kind of includes all of those things on one sheet, but we can also link to the dark skies thing?
We could. I just know that people hate reading. It's always very disturbing how little they like to read. So, if you could break it up into chunks, they're more likely to, rather than one. But that's good. And then you could just put the link to the dark sky initiative.
Can you stop on that second page, Susan, right there, homeowners? No, the last bit, because in the information that was sent to me for this meeting, I didn't see that part. So that's, great additional information. And my opinion is this is pretty darn crisp and short, and I love what you've done. And I think it's totally excellent start for these, quick info pieces we're talking about. And
As
I
the
said, I
marketing
love-
person, do you want to try and craft it into a little thing? Do you want to try and format it in a way that would look like one of those templates? Would that be
I can
something?
do that. I can do that. But you mean the templates that I saw quickly from the conservation voters
Yeah,
thing?
we can just steal their format, or a form, we
Yeah,
can make
sure.
up our own template, but just something that we would be like our path if we want to develop town-specific information.
Yeah,
to
so,
have a
so,
path.
so we would have a look and some colors and maybe a border or something, but then we would have, I really like your categories. I would suggest we continue with those. What do you guys think?
I'd like them to be pointed rather than paragraphs if possible.
I'm sorry, say what?
Bullet
Pointed?
points
You mean
instead of
like
paragraphs.
Oh, sure.
And
Yes.
something a little more graphically exciting than that.
Okay. And when I do this, guys, there's no pride of authorship or anything. I mean, I'm just a retired veterinary medicine person. So, it's not my main thing, but I do enjoy it. So I'll give it a shot.
Thank you.
And if you're going to send that around, Marjorie or Susan, send me the whole thing, because I just got 3/4 of it in my package today.
So
okay.
this gets back to that, to fulfill our public meeting requirements and all the rest. We need to send them to you, Tom, and then you can send them out to us.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to go.
Say that again. You're talking about to whom I should send any work
But we
that I
can't
do?
send it to each other. We're
Yeah,
Okay.
independent.
send it to myself or to Tom Fitzgerald. And then we will disseminate that information to the group.
Okay, and your emails on the town site, Tom, or
It is, yeah, you were copied on I was also copied on the same. email
on
you were.
the Zoom thing? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, I know. Okay, good. Yeah. All right.
So as part of this, I also solicited on the land trust listserv if people had policies on invasives or encroachment and dumping. And so I've collected a few documents on those things. And I don't know if we have any, someone mentioned a while ago that we have a town policy on
encroachment, we do.
encroachment. And I realize dumping is actually a type of encroachment. So that's a little bit.
Yeah, it's like illegal dumping / encroachment. So.
Okay.
Do we have it? Can we post it so people know that they?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think it's a great idea to put it on this site. Yep.
What is encroaching? Planting things on your neighbor's yard?
So we've had a number of encroachments. You have people who have back up to open space and they cut down trees and kind of push their property back. We've had issues with sheds being put to the beyond their property line.
Right.
Encroaching could be making a leaf is something as simple as making a leaf and stick pile on the open space behind your property. You can look at that as dump, whereas or like lawn clippings, in back of their yard that abut to open space. I think the illegal dumping, while it could be leaves and grass and that kind of thing, I tend to look at that as like we've had things as tires and furniture and those kind of things is when I think of illegal dumping, that's what I think of first. I think of encroachment as people dumping weeds and lawn clippings and garden waste out behind their property. Sometimes if they abut the trail, it ends up between the trail and their property line. We have a few thousand acres of open space in this town. It's very difficult to monitor all of those things. And, we've talked about a number of different ways to do that with a ranger program and whatnot. But when we do become aware of it, we try to reach out to the homeowner or the property owner first and get a response. And if we don't get a response, we go a second time. And then we try to, the worst comes to worst, then they'll get a fine in the mail if they have not responded or have not rectified the situation. So, but we at least want to make people aware that maybe a lot of properties change hands over the years, and it could have been the previous owner just started setting this thing up or put a shed in that spot or whatever it could have been. The new owner comes in and just assumes that's their property line because their yard is cut to that shape or whatever. But so sometimes it's just an educational thing, and that's where it ends. But other times, if we become aware of it, in the fall, you hear about it all the time. There's certain neighborhoods where another neighbor will report that, so-and-so is dumping behind their property. And obviously if we go back there and there's a fresh cut trail and a fresh pile of leaves back there, then we know it's more recent than that. So.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Unfortunately,
But there is a fine set up for it. If it's not, we give everybody an opportunity to work it out. And if it's something we have, no other recourse, if they refuse to move it, then there's a fine. So, or refuse to stop doing it, then there's a fine.
Unfortunately, the town doesn't have to worry about adverse possession. So if someone's had their shed on there forever, it doesn't become their property.
Interesting.
It can happen with private property.
Yeah. Every once in a while, when we're reviewing for whatever reason, if somebody calls about a tree that they think might be on their property and it's in rough shape or whatever, we pull up the property map and for that neighborhood or whatever, and you'll find some of these things where somebody's encroached or again moved a shed or placed a garden or different things like that. But once we become aware of it, we try to at least to address it in some way. So
yeah, my feeling about that, I haven't seen the policy. My feeling about that is to write sort of a positive little paragraph under the header that's on the open space site, say Simsbury has worked so hard to have this beautiful public open space, which is for everyone and for these reasons. And that's why we are very concerned about any encroachment on these properties. Here's our policy. Here's our, whatever. And so then it's just right up front. You can just point people to the website on it. And I have had people contact me about Belden Forest, for example, several times where people were concerned about dumping or people kind of taking over part of the forest as part of their yard, or someone cutting firewood. And then when someone asked them about it, they're like, oh, the town doesn't care. So it would just be like a way to kind of get out front of this and say, yeah, we do care. We've worked so hard. We've spent taxpayer money, whatever. And here's our policy to make sure that we protect this asset for everyone.
It'd be good to have it on the web because people, this happens with the Simsbury Land Trust. People just they don't know whose land it is, and therefore they assume nobody's.
Right.
Yeah, it is posted on under the town's code of or ordinances and policies, where there's everything from speeding in a park or whatever. Yeah. It is posted, there. It's you just have to dig around and look for it. Where I think if you're looking at an open space page, it would be a good idea to do what Susan said. So I think that what she verbalized was great, and then put that policy underneath it.
And actually, I'm now going to look through the codes and ordinances and see if there's others that we might want to link to.
I do. Because I don't think everyone else is going to be looking through the codes and ordinances. I mean,
no, they often do not,
thank
Audrey.
you.
Trust me on that.
Thank you. So, yeah, if we can find ones that, we can find for other people that they should need to know about and put in a lovely little paragraph, as you suggested, to draw their attention to it. I think that's a great idea. Because no one's I wonder what I should look in the code today. So it's not.
Well, and that will also facilitate this kind of interconnection that I'm talking about between, planning, zoning, conservation, codes, policy, all that.
Yeah.
So,
And speaking of policy, I did run the native plant policy by the Conservation Commission. They had some suggestions. So what I want to do is send those back out to this group to look at it again. They had some wording, but I'd love to move that forward to the bigger group so that we can start thinking about, because I know the plan of conservation development's coming up, and I'd love that to be more of a topic in the plan of conservation and development. And if the town can establish a native plant guideline, I think they wanted guideline instead of policy. Somehow they felt policy was too stringent.
Well, I think when there was some discussion on this a few months ago. It's hard to remember. I know when we looked at it, we're following that now. We're doing it. We don't do anything that's not, and we've asked the same thing of anybody who's beautification, anybody who's working on town property to use, native species. So it's hard to say never, because you never know what the situation. There's always something that could, there could be some exception to the rule, and once you break that rule once, so many times you're breaking it. So I mean, we were kind of all told as a rule to, direction is use native plants and shrubs and that kind of thing in our landscape.
But I always
going forward, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I always wonder, right now we have staff and leadership direction that we're going in this direction, but should that leadership change, will the policy change too?
I think there was some adoption of, I remember discussing this in open session with the Board of Selectmen. I even think we're even directed to purchase from local shops as well.
Oh, good.
So there might have been movement on this already that you might not be aware of.
Oh, well, good. If there is, how do we know?
There was something, it was in March or April. I recall being in a Board of Selectmen meeting, or maybe even back as early as February or something.
Well, if you can ask Maria and see what's because then I won't have to spend any time on this.
Yeah, I remember there was some debate about this in some way, shape, or form. I don't know.
All right, because I'll tell you what, I'll send you the native plant policy again, and then if you can see if it matches up with, I'll send everyone. But if you can see if because I know they had very specifics, like 100% trees, native, 100%, 70% shrubs, 75% of perennials and annuals that didn't matter.
I'll be able to track down how that conversation.
And then whether or not
it might have even been part of a proclamation back in the spring for something. It was all mixed in with something, and I very much remember this whether it's a guideline or a standard or policy.
Right.
We had this discussion. So
all right, good.
So Marjorie, are you talking about the same thing that's stated in the minutes from April? Ms. Winters stated she would be sending the work group, the policy from Newtown on native.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'd look forward to seeing that at some point.
Yeah, I'll send that out again. We did run it by the conservation. They liked it in concept.
Wonderful.
They had some, and it was essentially Newtown. It wasn't, Simsbury's version. It was Newtown.
Okay. And Tom, you mentioned something about interaction with local shops on native plants. And the last time I interacted with Pollinator Pathways, they were doing a thing at the library where they had a table. And anybody who gave a donation to them got a little coupon from Warner's and Bosco's saying, X% off from us if you buy a native plant. Is that what you were talking about? Is that something?
As part of the discussion with regarding the native species policy that Marjorie referenced, we were directed to try to, in every possible case, to make our purchases for these native shrubs and plants from the local vendors.
Oh, okay.
So
from local vendors.
And again, insisting them to keep these items in stock as well. So, so they're make them more available to the residents if we're buying them and they're buying them.
Yeah. Well, I think some of our local Our local places know that it's kind of a popular thing to offer those and educate
Correct.
customers. So I'm glad you've opened that door. Maybe they will want to expand, coupons for 10% off or something. I don't know.
Sure.
So, but yeah, so if you can find out if the selectmen have chosen a policy and, have adopted the policy, that'd be great. And then we can see if we can get zoning to recommend it for some of
Yes,
those.
please.
Yeah, or at
Yeah,
least get it into the plan of conservation development.
Yeah, I'll find out where it stands. I could be misremembering it, but
I hope you're not. I hope it's all done.
I don't think I am. I'm pretty, whether it was a policy that was passed around or was discussed in person in
Okay.
session.
Well,
I just
that'd be
remember it being in
wonderful.
relation to some
And if it
event.
isn't
Might have
done,
been the Earth round right before Earth Day or something. I don't
all right.
remember.
And if it isn't done as a policy level or a guideline level for the town, then at least we could
Yeah.
firm it up. So good.
Sure.
Good. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to? So I'll send you the things that I was going to send. And we can do a round robin sort of email to Tom and we'll email back to each other through that.
Okay.
I'll keep it all above board.
Yeah, so the plan is we're going to like send whatever documents we just promised to Tom and then he can forward to everyone.
Yes, and Susan, I will, if you are available this summer, I'll try to set something up with myself, Tom Fitzgerald, and you and the intern, just to kind of go over again. I think what the work you've done on that, the slides is you've almost done the work for us. It's just editing to make it look like that at this point, which is fantastic. So
Yeah, organizing and all that. Yeah, it won't be that
getting
difficult.
that information. So I'll try to get that set up within the next 2 weeks, so that we're all moving forward on that.
Okay, I do have one other question, like what if there was a document that we all like on the work group wanted to look at and edit? Do you know, can we have like a Google link that's open, like anybody on the planet could look at what's on there, but only we would be allowed to edit it? Because I'm just, because when I talked to Maria about this whole situation, she said, well, you can send edits to Tom and then he could put them in. I was like, that sounds like a nightmare to Tom.
Yeah, I think she meant, well, I don't know if she meant this Tom or the other Tom, but the
Oh, I don't know which Tom. There's so many
Yeah.
Toms, but
there's exactly. We tend not to use Google links here or Google.
Okay.
I don't know that we could have that on the town's website, but I will ask the question. I don't know, an open source document like that.
no, not on the town's website, just like on the agenda or something, like not on the website, but just as a working thing. And then we finalize it and put it on the website. But the Google link wouldn't be on the website. It would just be a way to have a workspace in the meantime. And then we wouldn't be like working on it secretly.
Yep.
It would be like
Gotcha.
open.
Yep. You gotcha. Okay. Let me ask on that. That's a good
Okay.
question.
It's just kind of a
I don't know the
hypothetical
answer,
right
and I
now.
don't know if anybody else is doing that. So that's a good
Okay.
question.
Sort of a hypothetical, but I've been trying to do that in various other, things as well.
Yep. If
So the other thing is, I think we have a full meeting next month, supposedly.
Yes, August 3rd. Yes.
Yeah, do you want to do I was also wondering, well, it's still summertime, so should we just keep that schedule and do the work group again in September? I feel like we should, like, we have some well, I don't know.
I
I
hope.
was thinking maybe,
Yeah, I don't know. I would think we're going to go back. We should have a lot of this website stuff done, I'm hoping, by August 3rd. I mean, to show some real progress there. And then if I can get the native plant policy, if we're find out that information, we'll have at least a couple of things to report by that point. They might be able to give a report on where just the final notes on the ag leases. All three of them. I think all of them have been signed at this point. So
Speaking
yes, go ahead.
speaking of ag leases, one of the things that when we were working on the ag lease is that, well, I know I suggested that we have a subcommittee, yet another, on the agricultural thing, because, to review who gets the lease. But we didn't do that.
I don't think there was a problem with that this year, Marjorie, because I think there was only a single bidder on each piece of property.
Yeah.
I believe. I could be wrong, but that's how it's selected.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
at some point, we still have to finalize the mow schedule for some of
Yes.
the meadows and things
Yes.
like that. It's not something I am actually out of time for me. We have an event here at the rink right now that I have to get down to, but or setting up for. But at some point, whether at the next commission meeting in August, it would be helpful to me if we have some direction before the fall on what we're going to do for each piece of property. That would be especially helpful.
can you get us a map? This is the last thing. Can you get us a map of where the various meadows are? And their sizes?
You mean no-mow meadows?
No.
It's the mowing once a year parcels that we like, the Triangle, Case Circle, Laurel Lane, and Meadow and Great Pond, and the new Meadowwood, the one actually across from the Triangle would be another. So.
And I know that the one of the Meadowwood fields that's, I think, it's beginning to have a mugwort problem and a Oriental bittersweet, so it might need some different strategy. So before it gets out.
So that, we've had round discussions about that, and before we get into the fall again, I just want to, if there's some direction to us and this is the way that everybody wants to go, we could do that. But as long as we all hear each other out and
Tom,
agree on,
And last year, I think you contacted me about the Greenway Trail, and we've been pulled out a whole bunch of mugwort, but I found out a new solution for that mugwort. So if you want to, I don't know what's being done about that this year, but
I don't know.
I'll send you an email about the mugwort.
All right, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
I think that's it. Does anyone else have anything? Do we have a motion to adjourn? And do we have a second? This is great.
No, Tom, if you have to go, but I just wanted to ask Susan and Marjorie kind of a process question for me. So if you have to go, you don't have to.
I have to shut down the meeting. I'm the
Oh,
one
you do? Okay.
All right.
Well, Susan, who should I ask? I just want to confirm the next steps on the projects that I'm going to do.
You can send an email to all of us through Tom.
Okay. Okay.
That way it's legit.
Alrighty. Thank you.
I'm
So
sorry.
I
No
second
problem.
the motion to
Thanks.
close down.
All right. All in favor.
Come to the ice
Thank you.
cream social tonight at the rink if
All
you're
right,
looking for
all right.
something fun.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, guys.